Hello, welcome back to another video, and on today's video I shall be talking about the first 13 episodes of Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. Now, in my previous bunch of videos I talked about the original movie trilogy of Mobile Suit Gundam. I wasn't really expecting to be discussing overall the first 13 episodes of Zeta Gundam. I was only really wanted to discuss the first 5 or so, but somehow it's got to the first 13. I've been going through Zeta Gundam quite a lot faster than I was when watching the original movie trilogy. So apologies that it's going to be... I think it'll be the case with all of Zeta Gundam and maybe the Gundam series down the line. I'll be maybe reviewing 10, 13 episodes one after another at a time. Which is not ideal, but I think it's just better for me, the time I have to make these videos really. So I think that's just how it's going to be. But I'm going to try my best with these videos anyway. So what do I think about Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam? As I said in my previous video, it is my favourite anime series of all time, and I still hold by that, even after rewatching it again. The thing I really love about Zeta Gundam, to be quite honest, the thing I love the most about it is the fact that I think that the way the plot moves, the pacing is really consistent. It doesn't slow down loads, it doesn't speed up too much. It keeps going at a nice consistent pace all the way through, I find. And it may be a minor thing for me to say that, how does that make something so good? But it just does, it just seems to make everything all consistent and flow very, very nicely indeed, and seems to weed out a lot of the bad stuff by making it that way. And by watching Zeta Gundam again, I've found that's kind of I've still found that kind of enjoyment with that reason than I did the first time round I watched it. The first time I watched Zeta Gundam, I've only ever watched it once, even though it's my favourite. I don't tend to do repeat viewings of stuff. The first time I ever watched it was around 10 years ago now, so it's been a good while. So anyway, onto the plot and stuff, and onto my observations and everything like that. As you may know, this is kind of a watch-along series, so there will be spoilers involved when I talk about this. I found it a little bit strange at first, the beginning. I didn't quite know what to think, because the beginning of Zeta Gundam is pretty much the same as what the original Mobile Suit Gundam was. It ran from my head, maybe they were being a bit lazy with this, but there's an important dynamic with Zeta Gundam which you kind of have to understand, and you kind of learn more about what they were going for the more you watch the series, and that is they're kind of reversing a lot of the stuff from Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, flipping from the original series, flipping it on its head. So, in this one, instead of the Federation being the good guys and Zeon being the evil faction, for what it's worth, instead the Federation and their the group, the Titans that created became the bad guys, and it's AU, which are kind of more in the Zeon position. They're a lot more well behaved than Zeon, of course, but they are now the good guys. And so instead, in the beginning, it was interesting that instead of Camille joining the Federation forces like Amuro did in the original series, he instead goes with Shah and the 3 mobile suits that broke into the colony, which is the opposite of what happened in the first one. So there's things like this which are kind of flipped on their heads, and I think are kind of nice. It's the same with Jared also. It's in the original series, you had Amuro, who was kind of a brand new, very raw pilot who only had his new type abilities to rely on until his piloting skill improved. And you had Char, who was expert pilot and had weaker new type skills. And this one is kind of reversed a little bit. You have Camille, who's a very talented new type, and on top of that is a very talented mobile suit pilot. We know this because of the fact he won that competition that we see at the start of the series. And then you have Jared, who is even though he's a Titan officer, so he must have I'm sorry, my mouth's a little dry, I keep licking my lips. Even though he's a very talented pilot, there we go again, even though he's a very talented pilot, he's not in the same vein as Char was. That's for sure. And so they at the beginning, that's for sure, they're a lot more evenly matched. And I think in the long run, like Camille has the upper hand. And you see like Jared's trying to get one over on Camille, like in his first 13 episodes, and he does. He gives Camille a hard time. We've seen him do that in a couple of like the battles so far. The battles I think have been quite enjoyable in this. I don't think they've been quite as epic so far as they were in like the final installment of the Mobile Suit Gundam movie, but that's to be expected because that was like the movie version of events. I don't think the animation has been quite as good as that either, for the same reasons. I mean, the animation is fine, it's kind of as you'd expect from like a series in the mid-80s, so that's really no problem at all there when it comes to that. And it fits well. One thing that makes me laugh, you can see like all like the 80s like fashion clothes that people are wearing. You know, like Char Aznavour's, you know, like vest get up and the sunglasses and long hair and all that kind of stuff. And I guess like speaking about the characters, I think Camille is like a more abrasive version of Amuro, to be quite honest. He seems quite similar to what Amuro was, but he's much more abrasive. I mean, you see him lash out at people so often. Many people don't like Camille as a hero in Mobile Suit Gundam for that very reason, and I kind of understand that. To be honest though, I do like the character. I kind of like what they did. Again, they kind of took Amuro from the original series and kind of just remodeled him. And yeah, so they made him like a lot more angry, a lot more angsty than Amuro was, even though Amuro had his problems. I actually think Camille seems to take more to military life than Amuro did. Amuro went AWOL quite a few times, whereas I think Camille doesn't really do that. I think it helps Camille a lot that he has Char there to help mentor him with everything. And Amuro never really had that. And I think up to episode 13, you've seen Camille mellow a little bit more. He seems to have calmed down quite considerably. He did punch Char in the latest episode, I know that, but still. I think he's an interesting character. I like how he has kind of both sides, does have a more mellow side. He does seem like kind of, when he's settled, he does seem quite like kind of a polite person when he is like being his normal self. I think his difficulties stemmed from what we saw like early on in Zeta Gundam with his parents, and we learned about them, and you know, his father was having an affair, and like his mother was like preoccupied with her work because she was worrying too much about what was happening with her husband and everything, and it seemed like Camille kind of got neglected a little bit because of that, and that kind of caused like the problems that he had really. And we have Far, who's kind of like Frau Bow. There's not really that much to say about her as of yet. We'll see more of her. We have Char Aznavour, and Char Aznavour as Quattro Vagina I think is my favourite Gundam character, and my favourite guy is Char Aznavour. The reason, I'm not sure if it's official or not, I've heard it being said in some circles, I don't know if this is correct. The reason why he's called Quattro Vagina is because it's his fourth alias. You know, he was Casval first, then Edward Mass, then Char Aznavour, now it's Quattro Vagina, so it's like his fourth name, his fourth alias. I'm not sure if that's like a correct fact or not, if it's just something another fan came up with. I don't know, I just share my thoughts on this channel. I'd like to be more accurate. If that's true or not, just mention in the comments below. This is my favourite version of Char. And I could spend this entire video talking about what Char is like as a person in this and how he's changed from the original. He's changed quite considerably. Again, he's mellowed like massively compared to what he was in the original. I think that's because everything kind of got resolved in his life in the previous installment. You know, the Zabi family were gone. That's it. We do know with this series that the Zeon are still there and they're still in the background. We've got some inclination of that. But he does seem someone who's far more settled now, and he just wants to be, as you saw in the latest episode, someone who kind of just wants to be a soldier now. He doesn't want to get wrapped up in being a leader at all. He kind of just wanted to be happy being a soldier, and that was that. And I can understand that, you know, because he went through so much difficulties earlier on in his life. I think that's why he is how he is in this. He seems to be someone who seems much more settled in his life, is enjoying his life a lot more. He doesn't have that burning desire for vengeance that he did previously. So his character just comes off as really cool, just like a really good mentor for Camille. And yeah, it's just really cool watching. He's just such a cool character, man. I mean, you can't really say any more than that. He's just cool. You just gotta watch it to see how he is. And he has that weird, like that massively 80s get-up that we talked about earlier. But Rick Diaz and Yakushiki especially, which are like really cool mobile suits. I mean, how could you not like Char in this? I mean, it's just so cool. And you have Amuro as well, who's kind of, we've met him a few times already, and he's kind of going through the same difficulties that Char was. Him and Char went through so much difficulty during the 1 Year War. And so they've kind of had similar experiences, and we've seen him in the latest episode kind of being called out by numerous people saying, oh, you're being cowardly, Char, why don't you become a leader of like the AU, you're like someone who could like really inspire people. And you've got Amuro who doesn't really want to be part of the war anymore because he feels that he did enough during the 1 Year War and he went through enough troubles with all of that. And like I said, I kind of understand their feelings towards that. They went through so much difficulties during the 1 Year War. I can kind of understand why they wanted to take a back seat and they didn't really want to do anything. But they didn't really want to contribute too much in this one. I kind of understand their feelings and attitudes towards that. I mean, Amuro has been held under house arrest because of like the Federation. They didn't like the crew on the White Base. I think I mentioned this difference between the original series and the set of movies before. In the original series, it was much more apparent that the Federation didn't really like the White Base crew much at all. And so we get to see more of that here. Amuro's been placed under house arrest. Bright has now became the captain of the Argama, as we know. He's kind of joined the AU. He was having a difficult time as part of the Federation. He was treated badly. Unlike the rest, he was actually given a promotion, but he was given some like really bad job, like basically in charge of like a space shuttle, shuttling people from Earth to the space colonies. That's basically all he was doing. He was given really like a really crummy job. And the rest of the White Base crew kind of seem to have left the Federation also and have kind of slipped into normal life or joined AU or Karaba, as we've seen in the latest episode, which is kind of like a side faction of the AU. And so we've learnt more of like what happened to the original cast, especially in like the last couple of episodes. We've seen like the 3 kids again. That brings me on to Cats. I think anyone who's already seen Zeta Gundam knows probably what I think of Cats. And now we've encountered him, and I'm not spoiling it for you. He is probably one of the most annoying characters out of the whole of Mobile Suit Gundam. I don't just count the Universe Century now, I mean the whole of Gundam. So I'm not really looking forward to spending any more time with him, and now he has appeared. So just a warning for anyone else who hasn't watched further on apart from this. Just brace yourself for Cats, because he's annoying. What else do we have in the last few episodes? We had them we had the cast going to Jaburo, didn't we? Which is another kind of like reversal of what we saw in the original series, basically. The Titans, I haven't talked much about them so far. They basically became what the Zeon were, and they're basically committing the same kind of atrocities that the Zeon were, and sometimes worse. And they were set up by the Earth Federation, as we know, to like combat the remaining Zeon remnants out there, and they have just became really evil. It's like the power's gone to their head. Really, they've become like a force unto themselves. They've started committing all these atrocities. The Federation, it seems quite rudderless in stopping them, even though they formed them in the first place. I think things would probably be quite a bit different if Revel was still there, but he's not. The Federation doesn't seem quite as organised as it did previously, and the Titans are kind of running amok. And Barskyum and Jamitov Hyman, which we've just met, have kind of, basically just committing atrocities left, right and centre, basically. We've met Patmus Shiroko, who's like the mysterious purple-haired pilot who become much more important later on. Jared, of course, which I just mentioned a bit about, and him and like Camille, him and Camille have basically, taken the lives of some of each other's friends, and so their rivalry is building up. And some people really like Jared, I've seen so far. I kind of like Jared. I can kind of see his appeal. He's kind of like a bit of a normal person, really, I guess, a bit more. He does have a brash attitude. I think his heart is in the right place sometimes. We see a bit more of his mean streak in his last couple of episodes, where he just bundles everyone out the way to save himself from Jaburo. But I kind of understand that because it was a survival situation. His, fight or flight kicked in at that moment. He had to get out of there. But I do find him quite annoying at times. He's different to what Char was, that's for sure. But I still think he's a really good character, and we'll see him developed more later on. And yeah, another thing that I think was interesting is like the juggling of characters. Like you see some characters disappear for a couple of episodes and then come back in, and some characters get the focus on some episodes, and some get the focus a little bit later on, and they kind of swap them around. It's one thing I've noticed also, and I think that's something which is really cool. I don't think other series do that as often as they should. I think that's like a neat little touch that Zeta Gundam has. I haven't talked about Emma Sheen actually either so far. I thought that she was really awesome, in the first few episodes. How especially how she helped bust the 3 Gundam Mark IIs out of the Titan's ship. At the start, I thought that was a really cool moment. And I think she got a lot of spotlight in the earlier episodes. She hasn't, in these last few episodes, she hasn't really had much to do. She's been absent a lot more in these last couple of episodes, but we'll see much more of her. And she's a really cool character. I really like Emma Sheen. She's a really down-to-earth character, but it's just really awesome also. Not afraid of getting stuck in with this conflict which is going on. And yeah, I think that's basically all I can say really so far about Zeta Gundam. I guess, actually one of the things I haven't talked about, the music. The music is really 80s, but I do love it. And I'm watching this on the Blu-ray collection set. And as you may know, they changed the opening and ending themes because I don't think the rights are valid outside of Japan. They're basically reworkings of some of Neil Sedaka's songs. Some of Neil Sedaka's songs. I think that's why the rights don't stand outside of Japan, so they had to change them. I feel the ones they used in the Blu-ray and DVD set also earlier work really well, so that's not a problem. A lot of the music and sound effects are really 80s, but it works well because it's a product of its time really. The animation, I said, is probably not quite as good as the last movie of Mobile Suit Gundam. But I think that's kind of expected because this is a TV series, and it's as I said, it's totally fine for the things of its time and the things Sunrise put out at this time in history, in the mid-1980s. So there's no real problem there. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about Zeta Gundam. I'd like to hear your thoughts. How are you enjoying it so far? I'd really like to know because it is my favourite anime. I'd like to know, are you really enjoying it? Are you not liking it? What are your thoughts on it? How do you feel about the differences, from the first series? Do you like the differences, or do you not like them? Do you like or not like the similarities, between the two or not? Yes, let me know your thoughts and opinions. And yeah, soon I'll put up the next part on Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam of my next lot of thoughts and opinions. So yeah, I'll see you soon.